I don't know.
Yeah.
In the car. So she's chill. I'm the one always tripping out. Always, bro. It's bad.
That's funny. Hey, well, welcome to the Soul Tapes podcast. My name is Adam Cruz.
My name is Antonio Reyes.
And we want to talk today about a couple different things. I think, as we're thinking about just life and a lot of the things that go into decisions that we make, a common theme that tends to come up is this idea and this relationship that we have with this word called risk. And I know for myself, so let me just kind of like share when I think about the word risk. In my undergrad, in my college, getting my business degree, one of the first intro classes that I had, I will never forget the lesson, because the first thing that the professor talked about was, and he put it on the board, he put high risk equals high reward. And that was pretty much the first lesson in business that I ever got. And it's funny because, when I think about myself, I consider myself to be someone who's very risk averse. So I think, and if for those that know a little bit about my life and the decisions I've made, some people might say, no, that I'm a person who was willing to take certain risks. But I think of myself as someone who is oftentimes trying to avoid taking big risks. And I struggle with that because, having like a business background and moving forward in different business ventures, that's a tension for me, because risk is important, and there is a necessary risk to a lot of decisions that we make. But I think today, we want to kind of dive into this idea and this conversation about, what is our relationship with risk, and what kind of goes into this idea of how we make decisions and how we're willing to kind of navigate through, certain decisions that might cause us to take a risk, or where we decide not to. When you think about that, what kind of comes up for you?
I think that when we talk about risk, I think as we get older, it becomes tougher to take risk, because at this point we tend to evaluate, everything.
Yeah.
I remember I consider myself, and I think we had a conversation about impulsivity. When I really desire something and I feel like I long for that, and I feel like that's my destiny, that's my purpose, I feel like I have no problem taking the risk.
Yeah.
I have no problem on losing what I have to obtain what I believe is for me. So I feel like as I'm getting older, as I have gone through different journeys, I tend to question it more than before. And because we're gonna talk about this. The problem with us many times is that you and I, being peacemakers, in our Enneagram, the most important place for us to be is in harmony and at peace.
Yeah.
Whatever disrupts that, we want to take it. We want to go back to peace. We want to get rid of the tension. We want to get rid of whatever disturbs us. And so we want to go back to whatever brings peace. So that's the place I like to be. But at the same time, I think my desire and my passion for something more is stronger than my desire to be at peace or where I'm at. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. So for you, it's like when you have a desire to move in a certain direction or make a certain decision, if you have a strong sense of confidence in that decision, no matter the risk, you find peace in making that decision.
Yes, I do. And I think that I should be more concerned. I should reevaluate and analyze my decision. But I feel like and I think I actually quite the opposite. I need to be more cautious, and I need to put more filters when I take those type of risks.
Yeah,
because sometimes because we take our decisions based on gut, right?
Yeah,
that's the way we take decisions.
Yeah.
my intuition can take me towards a place of emotion, and obviously it's my emotion saying yes, 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 and I can sense it very strong, that I don't put the correct filters, and I don't ask the correct questions, and to evaluate, is this worth me taking this risk?
Yeah. And the thing with risk, especially when we kind of bring it back to like the business perspective, 'cause I think we've both have been in situations where we've had to make certain like business type decisions, making very risky decisions, or being in circumstances where there is a potential for a positive outcome, or there is a very real potential for a negative outcome. I know that if we're not careful, we can easily be introduced to a certain opportunity, and depending on how that opportunity is introduced to us, we can easily focus so much on the dream or the best case scenario of that opportunity. So a lot of times we kind of tend to negate the risk factor, and that helps in maybe your situation. I'm sure in my case, I've probably experienced as well, situations where we can make a decision a lot quicker without having, like you said, asking the necessary questions, which is important, right? Because it could put us in situations where we're only focusing on the positive outcome, negating the fact that there is a very real, downfall or negative situation that in life, sometimes we don't realize how much those two are. There's a very close line of where it could go one way really well or one way not so much, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that when we take risk, I feel like we need to be cautious, of course, right? Because and I think the best way we can be cautious is allowing other people to speak into that decision, because we are actually only processing that. And I give you a clear example. Yesterday I had a conversation with a friend, someone that I met maybe like 2 years ago. They are part of this organization in Colombia that they have a huge influence in the church world, and they equip a lot of youth workers, and they invited me. They're pretty big in South America, and they're trying to expand to the United States.
Yeah.
And that friend reached out to me and said, hey, look, we want to do something in LA. We heard that you are well connected. But I don't know where they get where that got that from, but
you have a lot of social media followers.
I don't know, but anyways, that's probably a lie. But he asked me, hey, we want you to be part of this team. We want to partner up with you, see if we can do this, da da da. If you would have asked me that question 6 years ago, I would probably say right away, yes, let's do this.
Yeah.
But I caught myself, I was in Costco buying groceries, and I caught myself saying, no, Tony, pause. Even though it sounds like a great idea, a great opportunity, you believe in what they're doing, you need to evaluate, what is my season? What am I doing right now? Do I have the time for it? Do I want to invest the little bit of time that I have into add another project in my hands? Ask yourself all those questions. So I think that as I keep moving forward, I asked my wife, I was like, babe, you know what? Perhaps before I wouldn't probably never ask her. I would just jump in, but not this time. I was like, what do you think? This is the pros, this is the cons that I see. And sure enough, like, she brought other perspective, and I was like, man, I didn't think about that. Thank you so much. So I think that I'm becoming better at putting those filters.
Yeah.
Because in my impulsivity and my gut says, just do it. What are the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
You're not
Nike's brainwashed us.
There you go, for reals. So I think that that's where I'm at when it comes down to that.
That's really good. I really like that, because that takes a lot of wisdom to be able to properly assess a situation that way.
And failing a lot too.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned already, right? That your initial kind of way you typically handle situations is like when you get very emotionally like, oh, this sounds great. This sounds like an awesome idea. You can be sold on something very well that quite often. And it's interesting because I like the example you present as far as, you're getting presented an opportunity to, you know, partner with someone. It sounds like a great idea, project. Yeah, you have connections. You know, everything sounds like it should be fine, right? But there's very big risk when it comes to something like that, because they're putting responsibility on you to come forth and be able to deliver.
Yes.
Right. And that's the whole idea of business, right? When you're making this connection, you know, even you know, not sure if it feels like some sort of business transaction, but even just as a partnership, you know, if they're offering an opportunity for you guys to connect, you know, they're expecting you to deliver some results.
Yes.
And the risk in that is that if you're not able to come through, that could potentially hurt that relationship that you have, right?
Completely.
So that's where this idea of risk is really important, because, you know, we have to come to a place where we are not only analyzing these really clear big moments of, you know, this type of like, big project that might come up, but the reality is that we might experience risk on different levels on a daily basis, right?
Yes.
You know, I know for me, when I think about risk and I think about my kind of interesting relationship with risk, where I feel like I said, like I struggle with, you know, wanting to avoid risk and wanting to make sure that if I make a decision, it's the, you know, best decision for me. And then I might have my moments where I impulsively make a bad decision, right? Based on emotion, whatever it is. But I think for me, a lot of my struggle when it comes to risk is usually connected to fear and insecurity.
Yeah.
So for me, it's when I think about, so for example, like when I think about, you know, investing into like my music or creating my brand with clothing and apparel, things like that. You know, there's a risk that goes into me investing, right? Like when it comes to business and anything that you're doing, like you have to invest, and that includes financially for sure. The risk in that is that you may not see a return, right? The risk in that is that you're investing all this money that you may never get back, right? There's a risk when it comes to that. And then for me, my fear and insecurity is always like, you know, am I good enough? Is my product good enough? Is my idea good enough? Are people going to receive it well? Is it worth me risking putting this foot forth, my effort, my time, my money, to hopefully see a return in some way, shape, or form, right? So for me, what tends to hold me back is it stems from insecurity, which for me, when I experience insecurity and fear, is typically this paralyzing feeling where I find myself in a position of not willing or being able or having desire to move forward because of an insecurity and fear that I have, you know, because of the risk that is being presented.
Yeah. I think obviously, you know, insecurities and fears are a big piece of it. You know, I see it more now than before. You know, now when I want to take certain decisions, you know, the fear of destroying my comfort and destroying my peace, you know, the fear of failing, the fear of not being good enough, you know, always falling short. And I think that also that, at least for myself, you know, that's connected to the way I grew up. I think I shared this before, you know, I love my father and I have grown so much in my relationship with him. But there was a sentence that he always tell me, you know, every time that he would go and watch me play soccer, he would tell me, you're good, but you need to train more. You're good, but you should have done that. And in my mind, in my heart, I would hear, you're good, but you're not good enough.
Yeah.
You're never good enough.
Yeah.
You know, you're very good at this and you improve a lot in this, but you still a lot of growth in this.
Yeah.
So I always fell short of that. So that's when I am taking decisions, you know, and in the back of my mind, that voice still running my insecurity of like, am I good enough to take this risk? Yeah. You know, even like taking, you and I had this conversation, you know, I'm not a school person. I hate school, man. Like, I didn't even know how I graduate high school.
Yeah.
I don't know how I graduate college, you know. Now, the opportunity of entering into my master's degree, you know, my grad school, came at the beginning of this year. One of my teachers or one of my bosses in that time called me. Back then, he called me. He was like, "Hey, Antonio, what are you doing with your life?" He's always very straightforward. I was like, quite a bit, you know.
Yeah.
He's like, "Do you have your BA?" I was like, "I do." He was like, "I got an opportunity for you." It's like, and the university that I work for want to pay you 75% of your scholarship, and so you can do your grad school. I was like, oh my gosh. And right away, bro, like, I think it took me months to consider consider, not even like, am I going to apply or not? No, I had to consider the opportunity, because it sounded great. It sounded out of my league, like, can I write at that level? Can I read at that level? Can I understand the concepts at that level? Big part because English is my second language, and I get nervous when I'm in environments like that. So all these things, and right away the voice of like, am I good? But I don't think I'm good enough to do that, So having conversations with friends, helped me. Having conversations with even teachers from that school, people that were in charge of that program, make me feel like, don't worry, take the risk. At least you can walk away from this saying, I tried it.
Yeah.
At least I try it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, thinking about, that conversation with your dad, or when he would kind of have those moments, it's funny because those are probably simple things that, maybe he said it with good intention, and maybe that was his way of motivating you.
Of course.
And
he was trying to love me,
right?
Man.
That was his way of trying to help you to get better. But it's funny that, criticism is really, criticism or feedback, or however you want to categorize it, is it's very important on when and how you communicate that, right? Because especially at a younger age, when we hear those types of words, you're in a moment of going out to perform, and what you need in that moment is encouragement, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that was his way of trying to encourage you, but in your mind you kind of received it as, man, like, I feel like he's affirming me and then putting me down at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And so it kind of puts this in us, like you said, like, so now moving forward years later, you still have that feeling and emotion in the back of your mind, like, I know that I'm good, but when I compare myself to others, I'm not good enough, or I may fail, right? So
and I know this is not part of the conversation, just it's like a sidetrack, I catch myself doing the same thing to people close to me.
Interesting.
So now I can see why my dad would do it to me, because I love that person, and I can see the potential.
Yeah.
I see their strengths, and I see the capacity that they have, right? But then I have to rewind and restructure the way I comment, because I can see the pain that can cause. But anyways, going back to the conversation.
No, yeah, and that's it's just, I just find it so fascinating when it's like, those moments are so critical when it comes to how to communicate love and encouragement, and how it plays a part. Because I think what people don't realize is, at a young age, when you're making the decision to go play a sport, people, often, especially like parents or adults, look at a child and say, oh yeah, you're just going to play, it's fun, no big deal, like, go out there and just enjoy yourself. But as a kid, when you're going to play, like, there's stress, there's anxiety, there's this fear that comes alongside. You're taking a risk to go out and say, I'm going to put myself out there against all these other kids and go and play. And even if you've trained or you've had, experience, every single time you step out on the field, there's that feeling of anxiety, right?
Yes,
and,
always.
And so, I think it's hard for us as we get older, or maybe even not even thinking about like a parent to child, but even as a peer, or like having friends where they're, maybe in different levels, it can be really easy for us to say, like, you got that, no big deal. But then we kind of minimize their experience, right? We minimize the risks that they're taking.
Yeah.
And then so that's where we're not careful with how we're communicating, or at least not being fully aware of moments of encouragement and where moments of feedback need to be separated, right?
Yes.
Where maybe after the game, maybe after you've gone home, maybe, a couple, day later, say, hey, like, let me talk to you for a second. Like, man, first of all, you did a great job, but there were some things that I noticed that maybe can you acknowledge that you can maybe work on or do better, right?
Completely.
Excuse me. That might have been a different conversation, or maybe a different feeling and experience for you, that might have encouraged you or maybe gave you more confidence,
Of course.
kind of as you got older? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just
No. I think that's fair. Now, that we're talking about this. Talking about risk. I feel like risk was embedded in me since a very young age, because when I was young, trying to play soccer, I will have to go try to all these teams in all these cities that they were far away from my house. They were far away from my family. They were far away from the city that I grew up. At the age of 16, I was living in a city like 8 hours away from my family for like a month and a half, because I wanted to play soccer with a random kids. I was 16 years old. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
If I have a kid, I would doubt that I would let my kid to go, be 8 hours away from me to play a sport. Going to other places, my parents, they were so flexible now that I see it. I will go to cities 4 or 5 hours away from me, being by myself, a 16-year-old kid, they want to go crazy. Who would do that,
Yeah.
But that was part of me taking risk of like, I'm going to try this out. And I think a big part that we have to, if we're going to take risk, we have to be willing, and we have to set up our hearts to be willing to deal with disappointment all the time. Because if we don't achieve anything and if we're not obtaining what we want, we have to learn how to deal with the feelings of disappointment that we didn't get what we wanted, right?
Yeah.
We need to be willing to deal with that. Those feelings can't set us back to say, well, perhaps this is not for me. Maybe not, but we have to be willing to deal with those feelings and be prepared. Not saying that you have to come already been disappointed. Just be ready for it.
Yeah, that's really good. So there's kind of like two sides of it, right? So as a risk taker is coming to terms with the fact that if I take this risk in making a decision to go, move forward with this, business venture, move forward with this opportunity, we have to come to a place of, there is a chance that this could fail. There is a chance that I could fail.
Yes.
But what's interesting about that is it's not, like you said, not being pessimistic, not walking out saying, oh, with the attitude that this is going to go wrong, but it's coming to terms with the fact that there's an outcome that is very real and very possible that could go wrong. And what that actually does is creates a healthy relationship, right, with risk, because you put yourself in a position to say, if the worst outcome does happen, because you've prepared yourself emotionally and mentally, now you can say, you know what? I started this understanding. So it's, I like the soccer, game experience. I went into the game knowing that there's a chance that I could, go.
I'm gonna be rejected.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna be.
Not play well.
Yeah.
And even for myself, we've been playing soccer. And I've just started learning for the past couple months.
Hey, you're becoming good.
And a lot of work to do. I've never played in my life before this. But what I've realized, if I have days where I feel like I do really good, and I have days where I feel like I do really bad. And I get really frustrated and down on myself. I usually walk away like, man, like I wish I could have done better. I wish I could have performed better. I wish I could have played better. But there's this level of after I kind of get over that, I start to kind of remind myself is like, hey, first of all, you're still learning. Second of all, those days are going to happen. So what really encourages me is when I have a bad day of playing soccer, and then the next time I go play, I maybe put a little more effort in, maybe, work a little harder, and maybe I play a little better. It encourages me because I start to see like, hey, those bad days are going to happen and those good days are going to happen. But I know that I cannot let the bad days define me so much so that a good day never comes, or I think that a good day will never come. And that's where when we come to the idea of being willing to take that risk and say, hey, I might have sucked last time we played, but I'm going to go out there and try again, right? That to me is that healthy relationship with risk, being able to put yourself out there, and it's becoming to terms, like we said, with the idea that the negative outcome could happen.
Yeah, two things. Just to close this thought, I feel if you notice a conversation, and I hear this from people that I admire, they have done beautiful and great things. if you take risk and then you fail and then you keep going, you develop resilience through this process, right? You fail, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Every time that you play soccer and you didn't play good that way, you walk away. You said, man, but you come back again and you try it again. You leave, you come back again, you try it again, right? So you develop resilience, if you go and put yourself out there and if it doesn't work, you'll be rejected or whatever, you're developing inside of you in your character resilience to be able to be flexible through life, so I think that's very important. There's no other there's very few ways to develop resilience in life, and this is one of those. You have to be willing to sometimes fail, and stand up again, keep going, and try it again. Now the other piece that I think I want to make sure we have it in mind, we have to be conscious and aware of seasons. Not every opportunity is our opportunity, right? We're not just going to take risks for the sake of taking risk, and period. We have to learn how to read the times and the seasons of our lives. I remember having a conversation with Josh, Pastor Josh, and I was sharing with him some opportunities that come my way, and I was not quite sure if I wanted to take them. I was concerned because obviously it would require for me to leave things that I love to take up things that I would like to achieve. And he told me, Antonio, I want you to understand something. He was like, in life, there's windows of opportunity that when they're open, you don't know when they're going to be closed. And when they're closed, you don't know if they're going to be open again. So you need to be aware and you need to be conscious of those windows of opportunity. Now, not every window of opportunity means this for us. And I think what end up happening with many of us, because we don't root ourselves into something, into the season we're supposed to be, we take any opportunity and we're constantly failing. That's not healthy either. We need to learn how to evaluate the season where we at and saying, okay, does my season is already over here? And do I take that risk? You know what I'm talking about?
I like that. I think that it takes us to a position of calculated risks, because like going back to like my struggle and kind of battle with risk is, I think what has helped me as I've gotten older is exactly what you're talking about, is this understanding of that when you make a decision to take a risk on something, that you're not blindly making that decision.
Yes.
Right? There's a calculation that goes into it of saying, hey, what are the factors that are going to cause this to be a possibly good decision, or maybe, you know what, maybe this isn't a good idea because I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 that doesn't sit right with me. And I think that when it comes to this, we could apply this to so many areas of our life, right? We can apply it to, different relationships that we might want to engage in, friendships, job opportunities, any business opportunities, things like that, right? That might come up to say, is this something that I need to be engaging in? Am I making sure that I'm doing the proper thought process? Am I having the right conversations with people enough so that I know that when I make this decision, that I'm not just going into it just all head in first, right? So that I like that idea of what that looks like.
I think we have to measure the margin in life. What is the margin in life that we have? If the margin of life in my life allows me to take that risk, I think you should jump into it, I think in taking risks, I mean, obviously we're talking about taking risks doesn't mean that you don't process things, doesn't mean that you don't evaluate things. It doesn't mean that you don't ask a question, it means that you have to process in the right way, put the right filters in life, and the right filters in your life, pretty much, so that you can take a calculated risk in your life.
I think that's really good. I kind of thinking about going full circle and this idea of, many of us have different relationships with when it comes to risk and how we figure that out. But I think that's something that we definitely need to keep in mind when it comes to some of the battles that come into it, because I think a lot of people find themselves in places where they're so defeated, like you said, like when you're making, you've made decisions, so you're now at a place where failure seems like that's the only thing. So you have those two kind of spectrums: people that maybe are blindly going into it, or the people that have been so defeated by life and their decisions that they're not willing to take another risk. And I think those moments are also, we have to make sure that we kind of bring ourselves out of that place, right? To understand that. And I think that's where also like a good foundation of hope and kind of like belief and faith come in. Yes, is that completely. When you can say like, okay, like if God has placed me on this earth, there's that he's given me gifts and talents and creativity and all these abilities, then I know that I have an ability to do something good and to achieve something. And that's actually giving me a lot of like hope in myself and encouragement when I say, you know what, like, you know, I know that I have an ability to do something. So if an opportunity comes my way that I feel I have the proper, you know, skills, knowledge, and strength to do, then I know that I might be willing to take that risk.
Yeah, I mean, just to close my thoughts, you know, if you find yourself in this space after taking a risk, you find yourself feeling defeated, like this is not for me. I can't keep going, like I'm done. Take a break. Take a couple months. Take, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 10 months. I don't know how long you have to take. Take a break. You know, allow yourself to process, to mourn that. Allow yourself to feel what you feel. Bring someone else into the conversation. I brought counselors in my life. Bring wisdom into your life. Share with that person how you feel, how you really express every single little thing. You know, so that you can mourn it properly and you can heal from that. You know, don't try to take risks right away. Don't try to make decisions right away. Give yourself a margin in life to feel, to process things, and to stop in life. And then maybe reevaluate the things 6, a year, 2 years later, and maybe you can take a chance like that.
I love it, man. I think that's really good. You know, just my thoughts on that, and I think we can kind of pin this. I think that's something that's given me a lot of peace. In my own life, is not comparing myself to others, not comparing myself to my own time frame of wanting to achieve certain things in life, not being willing to take certain risks because I think I have to. Right? That's, I think a lot of times people find themselves in this place of they're making decisions not because they're good decisions, not because there's proof to show that maybe this is a good idea. It's because they feel like they have to do something. And when people get in this place of survival where they think they have to just make a certain decision, oftentimes they end up finding themselves in a place in life they never thought they would be or ever wanted to be, completely, simply because they thought they had to. But I love that what you said, that, hey, take a step back, wait 2-3 months, wait 6 months, wait 2020, take the whole year off
for real, if that's what you need.
If that's what you need. And that's where I've been at. It's like, you know what, I'm not gonna define myself based on what I did or didn't do this year. You know, when I think about like my music, I think about my like business ideas, I think about, you know, all these things that I want to achieve. I'm gonna say, let me take a step back, let me pray, let me focus, let me think, let me process. And as we move forward into the new year, you know, thinking about what God, first of all, God, what do you have for me? Where are you taking me? What are you asking of me? How can I be obedient to what you've given me already? And how can I use what you've put in my hands to be able to move forward?
Completely, you know, and I know that I said that was my last thought, but I feel like this is an important thing to point out. And this is something, I think this is where I'm at. Years ago, one of my friends and mentors, you know, was telling me that he was frustrated because he was, I think at that time he was like 36, 38. He was telling me, people my age, they have accomplished around me many, many things. And I feel like at this point in my life that I'm missing out. But he told me, Antonio, something that you need to understand is that God redeems time. You know, he never wastes his time.
Yeah.
And even though you feel you're wasting time, he can make things happen. You know, whatever you lost in 2 years, he can make it happen in months.
Yeah.
He's like, you need to understand and remember that God redeems time. And I think that's where I'm at. You know, some of us, we feel that 2020 was a waste. Some of us, we thought the certain seasons of our life was a waste. Allow ourselves to believe, hey, God redeems time.
I love it. That's so good, man. Yeah, that's huge. I think, you know, for especially, I think when we think about what our 20s should look like in general, right? We have so many aspirations and goals, but that's so good, man. Only God can redeem that time for us to experience so much. I think a great example of that is Gary V. You know, Gary V, the business guy. He's so big on, you know, always pointing back to people like he was 36 until he, you know, grew his business, you know, became this, you know, famous entrepreneur. And we in our 20s think we should accomplish so much. So I love those encouragements when we see an example of someone so successful. And there's so many others that can prove that, man. Time, first of all, time is not, we shouldn't put these standards, but even more so how God can redeem that, man. That's so good.
Completely.
Yeah. So, you know, I love it. I think that's good, man. We can, you know, continue this conversation, you know, as we think about more risk and opportunities that come up. But man, I think that was great.
Yep. Love you, family. Follow us. Share this podcast with your friends. Make sure that if you have any suggestions, let us know.
Yeah.
DM us. Put a comment on YouTube. Whatever you want. Please let us know. We want to be able to engage in this conversation. So we love you, family, and thank you for joining us today.
Yes, and share this with a friend who needs to take a risk or someone who's taking too many risks.
Let's go.
This is the Soul Tape Podcast. We will see you guys next time.
And we out.
I think of time as just the holding of our memories. One day there won't be a page for you to check for me. Yeah, but is this really all of life? A place to grab all the pieces we can to make it right?